Hello, loves. It's Nina with Passion Squared. Welcome back to the podcast. It has been so awesome to hear the feedback from you, listeners, the community, our clients. Thank you so much for giving me the fuel, the energy, and the feedback to continue with my commitment to stay consistent with this podcast in 2024. So I hear you. I see you. I appreciate you. Your feedback is so valuable to me. So keep it coming. Let's get into it. Today, I want to talk about a narrative that I've been seeing for, I don't know, probably the last maybe 4 to 6 months. In particular, though, this last few months, I saw a couple things that inspired me to drop this episode. Last week, actually, I was on Reddit, or maybe it was the week before. So we had really crazy storms in Portland. If you follow Passion Squared on the socials, or me personally, you probably kind of got a glimpse into that. It was scary. It was messy. There was a lot of power outages, a lot of cell service lost, a lot of destruction. It was really scary. However, the context here is that I spent a lot of time on Reddit. Reddit has a lot of local engagement and news and community and support. And in times like that, where there's a lot of unknown and things happening throughout the community, Reddit is just one of those places that I've found myself going ever since I left Twitter about a year ago. So I'm on Reddit, and one of the hairstylist Reddits popped into my feed, and I was super stoked because I don't spend enough time on Reddit to know that even existed. Even, of course, I knew it existed, but I've never seen it. And so I just clicked on the hairstylist Reddit, and the discussion was, is everyone slow? Now, this is a conversation that's been happening on TikTok for a while. So I was seeing the TikTok stuff. I don't see it much on Instagram because Instagram is really where I put my energy on. Instagram is our clients and community. So, I mean, it's not really a discussion happening with our clients so much. However, I was aware of the discussion because I had first seen it on TikTok. So this Reddit thread was really interesting because the majority of the thread was saying, oh my gosh, yes, it's so slow. Oh my gosh, yeah, just the last few months have been really, really difficult, and I don't know what's going on. And then, of course, every now and again, you'd have someone pop in saying things like, my business has never been better, or you have the narrative that's been around as long as I've been in the industry, which is, quote, January is slow, unquote. Okay, so I wanted to talk about that. Is everyone slow? No. Everyone is not slow. Everyone is not busy. Everyone's not happy. Everyone's not sad. Because context, because perspective, as I shared in the first episode this year, 2024 is going to be the year of perspective. And remembering that it's so easy to get sucked into a narrative because the algorithm is feeding us what we tend to engage with. And of course, content like, oh my gosh, like everything's a mess, it's engaging, right? Sometimes we can actually relate to it. Sometimes we have compassion or empathy around it. It's good for the socials. So taking a big step back, thinking about perspective, thinking about context, and thinking about the folks that actually are experiencing a dip in business, I wanted to talk about that. So this is such an important reminder of why understanding your brand and your business, your brand story, your business objectives, your business outcomes. This is why it's so incredibly important to have that solid foundation to help you retain perspective, to help you make decisions that are aligned with your brand, to ultimately create long-term consistent growth. What I have seen over the last, handful of years is that for folks that don't have that clarity, they tend to take advice, out of context advice, random advice. Not saying it's bad advice, just advice that's not meant for them. Or again, out of context advice, and apply it to their business. And then 5 minutes later, turn around and say, oh, well, so-and-so said this, so I'm going to apply that to my business. And like, wait, so-and-so said this, and I need to take this. I need to go to this webinar, and I need to go to the, and I've shared this so many times. Yes, learning, obviously, lifelong learning, right? We want to learn, we want to expand, we want to grow. However, if you don't have that foundation, that compass, that the fundamentals to build your salon business, what inevitably is going to happen is that you are going to be so busy listening to everybody else and what they're doing that you wake up one day and you're like, I'm slow and I don't know why. That's really the most frustrating part, right? So when we look at how your brand story, your salon brand story, and how brand fit into this discussion of, is everybody slow? Your brand is your differentiator, right? It literally makes every haircut different. It's how you design your experience, that brand promise, that experience you give to either your clients, your teams, if you're an employer, or your tenants, if you are a lease-based salon owner. What are those promises? And are you delivering those promises consistently? How are you pricing? Your brand determines your price. Pricing is not a standalone thing. Pricing is a function of marketing. Marketing is a function, brand is a function of marketing too, right? So price aligned with brand. Talked about that often in content, podcasts. How you communicate. This has been huge, especially when it comes to business agreements, how you build your agreements, or what some people call policies. That is driven by your brand story, back to your brand promise and how you want folks to feel. How do you create value? Kind of going back to differentiating and experience. How you connect to the people that value what your brand offers. There's this continuous kind of tension and discourse around pricing, and we've talked about this so many times, but for the context of this episode, I'm going to I just want to share just a reminder. When we hear people say that's too expensive, that doesn't necessarily mean your service is too expensive. It means that the person that's saying that does not see value in the experience that's being delivered. So there's no need to get upset or angry or get into some internet fight with a stranger because someone doesn't see value in what you do. That also has nothing to do with you as a person. It has nothing to do with your worth as an individual or a human. It has to do with a consumer, and we're all consumers, saying, yes, I see value in this, and the value I see aligns with the price being charged, or no, I really don't see value in this, and the experience is not aligned with the price that's being charged in my eyes as a consumer, right? So when we think about what do we do when things are slow? When things are unusually slow, not seasonally slow, because, everyone lives in a different place, right? Some people have busier seasons and some people have slower seasons. That's not something to get, concerned about. It's seasonal, right? And there are so many things that you can do to fill that time in those seasons. You could live in a market that's a seasonal market, in a location of the world that's more seasonal. Your brand could focus on tourism. There's so many, again, context and perspective is so important. However, when we look at just general slowness, and if you are sitting there saying, what is happening or what happened, here are some things to look at. I talked about in the first podcast episode this year, the Year of Perspective episode, I talked a little bit about the overcorrection. I talked a lot about it in our A-School workshop we did this month, the 2024 Trends and Outlooks. If you're an A-School member, that's a must-watch workshop. I talked a little bit about it in a reel that we did on the Passion Squared Instagram a couple of weeks ago on some retail math stuff, which we've also done podcasts about that. However, I have talked about this overcorrection, and overcorrection meaning what I saw coming out of the pandemic was people were discovering healthy boundaries for the first time, which, hallelujah. It's something that's been at the center of Passion Squared since we started in 2012. However, people got confused. Some people, not all, some people got confused with the idea of practicing healthy boundaries in business and instead putting up walls. And that's not something I would ever recommend. So that could look like being difficult to do business with, looking at your agreements, client agreements, or what some people call policy. I use the word agreement because it indicates shared responsibility, whereas policy typically feels one-sided. Agreement feels like there's shared responsibility between you and your client, us and our clients at Passion Squared. And some of these agreements over the last few years have become so utterly ridiculous, and it makes it seem like you just don't want to, like, you don't want anyone to like come into your business. And I'm not saying you individually, I'm saying collectively. And I've been listening. I listen to consumers. This is what I do. I listen to stylists. This is what I do. It's my job. And it definitely is something that, and I know exactly what happened. People were like, I've had no agreements. And so that extreme, absolute black and white thinking says, I've had no agreements. Now I'm going to create really strict agreements. That's not it. That's not it. Brene Brown, clear is kind, unclear is unkind, right? So if you're a Brene fan, right? Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So when we look at agreements, we're looking at clarity, not being difficult to do business with, not being a dick, not making it so difficult to do business with, and the feelings that arise from the language that's used. Know this, don't do this, don't do that. If we just think of basic communication and, again, alignment with brand, meaning let's say that your brand promise is people will feel seen and cared for and heard. And then the first line on your agreements is no kids in the salon. And it's like, whoa, that doesn't feel aligned with your brand. So that's something to take a look at because, yeah, there are consumers that will say, you know what? I'm kind of done. Like, I'm done. And it doesn't feel good to me. It's too difficult to do business with this business anymore. Now, I'm not saying what your agreement should be. I don't know your individual business. I could never, right? We do have guidelines. We do have formats. We do have templates that are both in our A-School program and also in the Creating Your Awesome Brand course for salon professionals. So we have that, but you have to ultimately decide what works best for you. So agreements are a big part. Looking at your availability. It's a discussion we've been having for quite some time in A-School. And we're really beginning to see this, again, looking at healthy boundaries. Whereas this overcorrection was, I just am burnt out. I'm exhausted. I come in whenever my clients want. I'm overwhelmed. I'm this, I'm that. And so fuck it. I'm going to work 3 days a week and have zero flexibility. Do you see how that's black and white thinking? You see how that's absolutes, extreme thinking, instead of saying, you know what? I'm going to start prioritizing my own health and happiness and wellness. I am going to be much more intentional and methodical around my availability, understanding that there will be times when I really look at lifetime client value. There will be times that I will bend my availability for certain clients in certain situations. So see the difference? One is flexible and malleable with intention and alignment, and one is extreme and absolute and black and white. So that's something to look at. Look at your agreements, look at your availability. The next thing is looking at the experience you deliver. Because going back to brand, your brand promise, big part of your brand promise is the actual experience you deliver. And sometimes we lose sight of our own experience, right? So we have something called the Awesome Client Journey. It starts before a client arrives in the salon. It goes through when the client is actually in the salon and then what happens after, right? That post experience. And it's always a good idea to audit your experience. We just did a class on that in December for our community, elevating your client experiences in 2024. I talked in depth all last year about how important care, trust, and value is going to be to the consumer. And still, right? Still. So it's always good to audit your experience. Now, how could you do that? Well, you could actually do a walkthrough of your experience, right? You could book an appointment in your own salon. You could spend time experiencing other service-based businesses, whether it's salon, nails, skin, lashes, med spa, going through massage, going through what those experiences look like, taking a step back, and also getting clear on, which is a big part of brand story development, getting clear on what your folks value, right? What's most important to them. Because we sometimes lose sight of that because, we're human and shit gets busy. But many times, the reason why, and this is not new data, the reason why clients leave salons is because the experience changed. There was inconsistency in the experience. That's just a fact. So experience is a really, really important thing to look at when we're analyzing why we would possibly be slow. And then pricing aligned with brand, right? We saw, again, an overcorrection in pricing. People taking pricing advice or education out of context or getting not meant for them advice. This charge your worth narrative, very out of context and not aligned in any type of business principle or fundamental. Again, starting with brand and marketing, because that's literally what pricing is. And again, you either price people out, which you could do strategically, right? If you're looking to do a price adjustment to shift your focus. But if you weren't trying to do that and you're like, shit, where'd everybody go? Then that again is something to look at. So a few things that are kind of fundamentals that we actually shared a post, I think it was earlier this week on Instagram, which we've shared many times before, about looking at your just basic client care outside of the salon. So there's two things you could do literally this week that could have a positive impact on your business. These are not complicated. These things exist already if you have a booking app or salon software. So the first one is, what type of post-experience outreach do you do? Whether it's text or email. Again, those can be automated, generally speaking, on most booking apps and salon software platforms. Hi, Nina. Your experience, is so important to me. Just checking in, want to see how your hair, skin, nails, lashes, whatever it is. I'd be so grateful if you shared your experience on and then embed a link. It could be your Google business page. It could be your Facebook review page. It could be Yelp. It could be Nextdoor if you have a Nextdoor page. So obviously that helps with new client discovery, right? So it tells the client, I care. I want to check in. I care about you. Because again, care, trust, and value. I'm not going to let up on that. Care, trust, and value. So important. So I care, and they help you become more discoverable to new clients that, again, align with your brand. And then the other one is the lapsed client report. I did not make this up. This has been in our fundamental in our industry for as long as I can remember. And looking at, and again, most booking apps and salon software platforms have this report available. You just need to run it. And basically what you're looking for is who has not been in and is outside of their regular maintenance schedule. So of course, when you start working with a client, depending on their goals and needs and desires, you set a maintenance program for them in the consultation, right? As well as educate them on how to recreate their look at home, take care of their hair, be happy, feel joy, look beautiful, feel beautiful. So when we're looking at this recommended maintenance schedule that is based on your expertise, of course, and their desire, and it's agreed upon. This is a every 4-week maintenance type look. This is every 6-week. This is every 2-week. If it's lashes and lash fills, this is every whatever, right? So when you run that report and you're like, oh shit, Nina usually comes in every 2 weeks and she hasn't been in 2 months. I'm going to reach out to Nina and see how Nina's doing and invite her back in to get back on schedule. That's it. And I've shared this in podcasts. I've shared this in posts. I've shared this. I've shared it so much. And, the truth is, it is not happening for the most part. Even though the functionality, the automation, the technology is available. We all fall off, right? We all fall off schedule for so many different reasons. And I know that one of the pain points some of you have, not all, some, is that you're like, oh shit, they left. They must hate me. What did I do wrong? I don't want to reach out. What if they ghost me? The truth is, we don't know, right? We don't know until we ask. And even when we ask, we may never get an honest answer. And that's okay. And we have no control over that, right? What we do have control over, however, is letting clients know we care and inviting them to get back on schedule, because that is a service. That is saying, I give a fuck about you, client. That's it. Because that's what clients need to know, you care about them. That's what we need, right? So really looking at just those foundational fundamentals, nothing fancy, no dancing included, no trending sounds or all of that's cute and nice. However, without that foundation, without executing those fundamentals consistently, you are going to be at the mercy of all sorts of variables that can have a not so awesome impact on your business. So that's what I want you to look at. That's what I want you to look at. I want you to look at your brand. If you are struggling, I am going to urge you to enroll in the Creating Your Awesome Brand course, not because I want to sell it to you, because it is the missing link so many times, so many issues that are either brought to me or that I have seen have to do with not having clarity of brand, meaning you don't have a compass, you don't have a GPS, you don't have that foundation. With that foundation, you can do anything. Anything. And what you're not going to do is take not meant for you advice and go in a direction that was not meant for you or your brand. So it saves you so much time, so much money, so much energy, so much stress, because you have clarity, you have context, you have confidence. So I'm going to urge you to do that. Also, I'm going to challenge you to just try a post-experience outreach to your clients and running that lapsed client report and doing an outreach to clients that are outside their usual maintenance. check in, let them know you care, and invite them to come back. That's it. That's it. Two simple things. Two simple things. And then, of course, I would be so grateful if you let me know how it went for you. Our DMs are always open. You can find us at Passion Squared on the socials everywhere. PassionSquared.net on the web. And I will share a link to the Creating Your Awesome Brand course in the show notes. If you have any questions, please ask. I love your questions. I absolutely love your questions. And I am so grateful you're here. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy our podcast, I'd be so grateful if you shared that on wherever you're enjoying this podcast, whether it's Apple or Spotify. I'd be so grateful if you left a review and shared your thoughts. It helps this podcast become more discoverable to other creative small businesses and salon folks. All this with the intention of empowering you to make more aligned decisions. That's our promise at Passion Squared. And by aligned, I mean aligned with your brand. That's why we're here. Thank you so much for listening. I'm so grateful for you. Have a peaceful day. Bye.